Welcome to the Football Show on PLZ Soccer's YouTube channel. I'm Peter Martin, Alan Ruff and our special guest Joe Miller here with us to talk football. Delighted that you could join us, and of course if you get the chance, hit the subscribe button on our YouTube channel. More and more people from not only here in the UK but across Canada, America, Australia, New Zealand, roughly lots of people writing to us, enjoying the show and joining us in great numbers.
Yeah, it's good that there's that much happening here, you know, and obviously they don't see it where they're staying, and this is a time to catch up and see what's happening, because if you're Scottish or whatever and you live abroad, you want to keep in touch with what's happening.
Yeah, absolutely. They say, Joe, absence makes the heart grow fonder, and the amount of expats that we get messages from, you know, not just Rangers and Celtic fans, but all fans just want that wee touch of home. It's almost like you're in the middle of America and you've opened up a Tunnocks tea cake.
Yeah, and they're still good at handing it stick as well.
Yeah, absolutely they are. You better believe it. And of course, the good thing is, if we do make friends from across the ocean, Joe's always able to get us a paid bus, and we can get over there and have a big night out, Ruffy. Yeah, we were talking about it yesterday, weren't we?
Yeah, we were certainly. And I won't be surprised if somebody actually invites us. It's got to be a sportsman's over there, and maybe the club they're associated to, we could stay there.
Somebody in Las Vegas, Joe, would be fantastic, wouldn't it?
I'll organise it.
Yeah. Actually, looking at your face, I know you could pull it off, to be honest with you. I'm going to start on a sad note, and thoughts go to Pat Linney's family. Played for Dundee and sadly passed away. News coming out of the Dens Park Club. I think it's always sad when you hear of the players that have passed away from clubs of old. So I think from everybody here on the Football Show, our thoughts with Pat Linney's family and friends. And of course, on that note, Ruffy, I think the funeral of John Hughes will take place tomorrow, and I think a lot of people will be out there to pay tribute to a man who was part of 2 European Cup final squads.
Yeah, there's something that the Old Firm fans do. They rally round when something like this happens. They turn out in their numbers as a mark of respect for what they did for the club, and I think it's great that the club's supporters show the affinity they had with certain players, and John Yogi Hughes was certainly one of them, you know, that obviously played in the era when the success in European football was there for everybody. He probably wasn't the superstar on the side, but I think if anybody of that era saw what he contributed in all these European games, he should have been.
Yeah, Joe, you were close to him. I know that over the last few months you were in his company as well. It's a sad day for a man who actually, really, I think the message is he just wanted to be remembered as one of the great legendary Celts who was part of a legendary era.
Yeah, he was proud to be a Lisbon Lion. I knew John for the best part of 30 years, ever since I joined Celtic. He was also a neighbour of mine, and I seen him quite regular, and even, as you say, up to a few weeks ago, we were at a supporters gig together, and it was great fun to have, and we had many a great night, and he was very proud to be a Lisbon Lion. You know, there's a lot of stories that you know could be out there that funny, but he was so proud that he was part of that team, a part of that squad, and even the 1970 side as well. So a lot of players respect him because of his goal scoring ability. So, but it was great to be around.
Yeah, absolutely. I know you were close to him, and of course I think a lot of people will be there to pay their respects to John Yogi Hughes as well. You know, like Ruffy, we're going to talk football, but lots of people send us messages, and one came from Alan, who is from New Jersey in the US of A, and we were talking about man caves. You know, there's lots of people now investing in man caves up and down the country, and Pat out there in New Jersey, have a look at his man cave, Ruffy. He sent us this video. Now, with all due respect, it looks the berries. There's the golf simulator where he's obviously practicing his swing. I mean, it looks, there's where he puts his clubs, and there's the bar as well. Now, that looks sensational.
He's taking that too far. I thought we're just going to have a wee couch, maybe a telly, and a bar, and the golf as well.
That's the kitchen.
I'd love to see the size of his house. That's his man cave.
I mean, Joe.
His wife doesn't know about that, does she?
That is unbelievable, isn't it?
Brilliant.
Well done to Alan, who sent us his man cave video. Absolutely brilliant. And he says, tell the boys that if they get themselves to the New York area, I'll take them golfing too. And it's Baltusrol. Do you know it?
No, I don't know that.
Jack Nicklaus won 2 US Opens and Mikkelsen won a PGA there.
Well, it must be a quality course if they play these kind of championship rounds on it.
And to be fair, even if you put a blow-up bed in that room, there's still room for you to lie completely flat out in it, Ruffy. That'll be fine, won't it?
It'll be fantastic.
You get a cot bed in there for me.
Absolutely, but Josie, I mean, and I wouldn't feel, how sometimes you feel strange when you're going to somebody's house, Ruffy. I'm quite happy if that's the man cave, the house. We could actually stay in that house and not need to speak to Alan.
Yeah, it just looks tremendous, doesn't it? I mean, the golf. I've never seen a golf simulator in somebody's man caves. That's the first for me.
Yeah, absolutely fantastic. Thanks, Alan, for doing that. Really appreciate it. Always good to get people's thoughts and pictures and on a man cave, but that's a belter. I don't think too many people. Will beat that, Ruffy.
No.
Somebody out there might have something a little better, but Stuart Ramsey says it might be a man cave, but he doesn't have any tenants in that fridge.
Well, I think there's a wee line of getting golf simulators in. Could make a few quid off it.
Especially of that size. Maybe not in some of the flats of my mates, I don't know, but certainly if you get a house that size, it's an absolute belter. Hi to David as well. Gregor, who's in Germany, great to have you on board. We mentioned Stuart, he's always tuning into the show on a regular basis, so absolutely fantastic. Okay, let's get to the main news, which is, of course, Stephen Hammell has been confirmed as the Motherwell manager. This is a statement that was released on his appointment. It's an honour for me to be given the responsibility as manager of this wonderful club, and something I'm very excited about. The last 2 weeks have given me an even bigger appetite for it. We've had some hugely talented players in this group, and it's now my job to get the best from them. I also have first-hand knowledge of the existing young players, and we will integrate them into the first team when they are ready. I think the players need some help with some new faces. I've been busy identifying potential targets should I be successful in getting the job, and now that I have, one of my first tasks will be to look to strengthen our options across a couple of areas. And when I was speaking to Stephen Hammell at the weekend after that late defeat to St Johnstone, even before he got the job, he was just telling everybody who would listen to him that the club needed to invest in new faces.
We've not had our problems to seek this week. There's been a lot going on which we've got on with. We've not made any excuse or complaint about it at all. But I think it's clear to see for anyone that was at the game, that we do. The squad needs a little bit of surgery. It needs a little bit of help for sure.
Absolutely, no argument with that, Ruffy.
No, I mean, we spoke about it the other day there. Which route the board would go down? Would they go in for a foreign manager or somebody in house? And they've obviously decided that somebody with hands-on who's been there for a long, long time, knows the players inside out, been about, and obviously touched on the young players there. And Motherwell have been a team that have promoted their young players very quickly. That doesn't happen all the time. You can't rely on it happening, but he seems to think that there are 3 or 4 young ones in there who must be on the verge, but I really think he's got to dip into the market. I think he's got to go out and get 2 or 3 experienced players to just kick it off, and then maybe just introduce the young ones eventually.
Yeah, I mean, we looked at it in the research last week, Joe. I think of the weekend there, possibly 7 players at Dundee United were Scottish, and then it would whittle its way all the way down to Aberdeen where only 1 player was Scottish. You do need that blend. You do need people who understand what it's like to play for their homegrown club.
And it's good that he brings the young players are the future of the club, and it's good that he's thinking about that, maybe bringing them in. I mean, going down over the years, even when I was at Aberdeen, when Alex Ferguson was there, bringing in the young players, giving them an opportunity. He didn't play them week in, week out, but if Stevie does that, brings them in now and again and gives them that wee bit of experience along with the experienced players, then they'll become better players. So I just hope he's given time. It's good to see a young manager getting the job ahead of, sometimes it's the usual suspects that are out there looking for jobs. But I'd like to see him given a wee bit of time And once he gets a few results under his belt, I'm sure he'll grow with confidence.
Yeah, you mentioned there being at Aberdeen as a player. You know, somebody as experienced as Sir Alex Ferguson, but did you know that did the manager sit you down and say, look, you're going to be given the opportunity, it's not going to be a run of, you know, if you get yourself into the side. What was the main key word that they said to you?
No, that's what it does. I mean, he would come in, he'd go to every game, he'd go to the reserve games and watches and training as well, but he would be able to pull us aside and say, listen, you're touching on the verge of the first team, so I'm going to involve you. Maybe you were spare man, which was a bonus just to get there, you know. Maybe you weren't a sub, but you were a spare man in case somebody was injured or anything like that. So that got you closer to it. Then you were maybe a sub, and then he would maybe turn around, if you'd done well when you went on or whatever, then he would say to you, listen, I'm going to give you a run of 6 games or so, or 9 games.
Yeah, he would say that to you?
Just say that and just say, let's go and show me what you can do, and have the confidence and believe in the players around about you. And then he would say to the experienced players, help them out, you know, back him up, you know, don't let him get messed about, because I was maybe a younger player and I had the likes of Neil Simpson and Neil Cooper behind me who could go in and, you know, put a tackle in after if I was pulled up. But you know, he gave you that experience, and you grow with confidence. But he would also say, listen, I'm going to take you out, because even though you were playing well and you wanted to play the next week, he would take you out and just say, no, just make you a wee bit more hungry for the next game.
Yeah. What age were you when you broke into the side?
16, 17.
And that's amazing, isn't it?
I mean, that's what they're doing. I mean, you look at all the players back then. Neil Coopers and that were coming at 17 years of age. Paul Wright was alongside myself. He was coming in and out at the side at the time. There was Stephen Gray, Ian Porteous, Eric Blacknell. All these guys, they were all young. Neil Simpson, they were all young players when Sir Alex gave them their chance. So he believed in that. But I think that there's a lot to be said that young players these days need to be given a chance, and it's good that for the future of the club that Scottish players, as you were mentioning, are you know, filling up the club, and they're gaining the experience there.
The best thing is when you identify there's a young player who you think is going to make it, is the first big step for him is you bring him into the first team dressing room. Mm-hmm. You know, you introduce him. Right. You know, he's probably been training with all the young ones in another dressing room somewhere else, and all of a sudden he says, "See, Monday, you're in that first team dressing room."
That was like myself. I was in the away dressing room, and I was doing the chores, and I was laying out the kits for the first team players, and I was also playing with them on the Saturday. But once I started to get more and more games and growing a bit of confidence, I was moved in. And beside the experienced players in the first team, and then
you're training with them, and then the manager can see whether you can hold your own or not.
Yeah, but I was still doing my chores as well, you know, with laying out the kits and the you know, cleaning of the dressing rooms and all that. That was still my grounding, but at the same time, he gave you the opportunity and he backed you all the way.
Yeah, absolutely. And I do see Stephen embracing that. Paul Brady says, Peter, did Tam tip Stevie Hammell to get the job last week? No, it was me who tipped Stevie Hammell to get the job, because I think it was a sensible appointment on the basis that I think sometimes when you go down a route where, as Joe mentioned there, you're going for someone who's been over the course or someone who's not got a real grasp of the ethos of the club. And Motherwell really are, like so many clubs sometimes, who lose their way and think, we'll just start bringing in foreign players, Ruffy, that are not as good as some of the young Scottish players.
Yeah, that might be the case. I mean, I don't know the players that have came and gone at Motherwell, but it might be the case that they have brought in 2 or 3 of these players and got their fingers burnt, and they've maybe said, well, we're not going down that road again. You know, he cost us $500,000 and we had to pay him off and it cost us 200 or whatever. So that's the road they've got to pick, and they've got to make sure it's the right road. I mean, I don't know what kids are in the academy at Motherwell, but the manager will now. He'll definitely know who they are, but I still think he's got to go into the market.
Yeah, he will have to get into the market, Joe. The only thing I was going to say, that probably a number of the players, and you always hear rumblings, you know, even last year I was hearing rumblings of players, they maybe didn't like the training. There was a lot of, you know, running involved, and some were getting, more than a few of them were disgruntled with, didn't like the gaffer. Simple as that. That's what happens when, you know, with players. But you know, how varied was the training with Fergie or when you were at Celtic with Billy McNeill? Was there more ball work or more fitness? What was it?
Everything was the same. I mean, it was great for myself at Aberdeen as a young boy, even as an S form. They took me up to Aberdeen to experience what pre-season training would be like. I'd go up in the October week and Easter holidays, and I was still a schoolboy, but I was training with the first team, getting that experience, training with the guys that are in European Cup finals, you know, Cup Winners' Cup finals, so, and winning leagues and cups, so you're getting that experience. But going to Celtic as well, it was no different. Billy McNeill and Tommy McCraig were a great partnership, and their training was fantastic. Everything was done with the ball, everything was sharp, and there was a good group. But I think it's easy for a manager when you've got a good squad there. It's good, it can go well. But when you're trying to build a team like that, I know for being at Clyde that you know, it's hard to get a group of players that's going to run through a brick wall for you. But that's what Stevie's going to have to try and get that over to his players. But he's also got to get his scouting system right as well. If he's going to bring in players, it's got to be good players. It's got to be the right players that are going to fit into the Motherwell setup. It's got to be right for the players that are already there.
Yeah, absolutely. It's always good reading out the feed, because we always try and tell people we can take getting caned, Joe.
We can caned already.
No, I know, but he's caned a minute into it, because this is one of these lines that's come out from somebody who's watching the show.
Got his address there?
No, he doesn't get his address, but he's. I think he's a Dundee fan, double D, and he occasionally mentions things that are on the show. But we say to people, listen, we don't mind getting battered, but always try and keep it decent. And he says, this is a cuddle and then a punch, okay? You've had one of them, haven't you? Great player, Joe Miller. Good start. Is that fair? Great player, Joe Miller. But and this is where it comes off. I remember him being subbed, and he came on as a sub by Billy McNeill.
Subbed and on as coming on as a sub and then taken off again.
Yeah, absolutely. You're raging.
Has it been tactical?
That was the Aberdeen game.
Were you raging?
I was raging, because you don't like that to go on, but you know, there was a big fallout of that. But everything happened that night. That was against Aberdeen, the semi-final, Hampden, and Big Roy had been even sent off, and myself and Jakanowski went on, and then I looked over and I said, that's my number coming up again, you know. But all hell broke loose in the dressing room, and Roy being sent off, all hell broke loose in the Aberdeen, because Roy ran into the Aberdeen dressing room. So it was fun times, but no, it's not a nice feeling to be going on as a sub, and I was raging with that, because.
What did he say? Did he give you an explanation?
It says he made the wrong decision. It wasn't the right time, and it was. I think he was put a defender on instead of an attacker. You know, so I was kind of, you know, we had to try and get something for the game, but he was wanting to put a defender on for myself, you know. So
and Big Roy, I mean, the other thing about it is,
if down to 10 men. That's
I was going to say, if you're in the Aberdeen camp and you play in the games, Fergie must. What was it like? Fergie just saying, Fergie wanted to do Celtic and Rangers non-stop.
That was it. It was a siege mentality of. You know, it was about against the Glasgow press, against the Glasgow teams, you know, and even though the dressing room was full of players for the West Coast of Scotland who either supported Celtic or Rangers, he made sure that we were up for the games, and you know, there was that siege mentality about what they were saying about us, what they thought about us, and that kind of. You know, everything was psychological with him as well. He would wind us up.
Was Frank McDougall there?
McDougall was there. He was brilliant.
He tells a good Frank McDougall. He was never in the team a lot. You know, he was in the early days. Frank tells the story. Fergie tells the story. Every Monday he'd be in his office, and the chap would come at the door and he'd just shout, "Come in, Frank." He knew it was him because he was wanting to know how he wasn't playing. How man picked him better than him. It was so.
He was. But Frank ended up. He won the Golden Boot.
Yeah, that's right.
Frank McDougall was a great player.
He was fantastic.
Was his career not curtailed by injury?
He had osteitis pubis. It was, and he was about 28, 29 years of age. It was probably that's your peak, you know. And he was. I think he got playing for St Mirren, going to Aberdeen, and he was roundabout good players, and he was becoming a better player, and he was scoring goals, and he picked up the golden boot. Just to be hit with injury like that, must deflated him.
And by the way, full marks to you, because you just turned around and you said it off part, osteitis pubis, and I thought to myself, bloody hell, Joe, you even remember it. If I'd said to him, injury curtailed his career, he wouldn't even have known the symptoms.
How did you know that symptom?
I've known there's a few players had it,
Well done, Josie.
Peter Henderson had it as well.
Yeah.
I thought it was just a cartilage you got.
No. I think he got an injection there. It was pretty.
Well.
Anyway, Kevin McLaughlin says, "Hi Peter, the last time I saw you, you were waving your hands in the air at a Rick Astley concert." Which is Kevin. Oh, absolutely, Kevin. Oh, yeah. Listen. By the way, you've got to take it in the chin, but Rick Astley was magnificent last night. Do you know the funny thing about it, Joe? It's just a strange thing if you go to concerts now, but you just see all your mates. And people that I met Billy Sloan as soon as I walked into the place. It was absolutely sensational, and lots of your mates you turn up at a Rick Astley concert. I mean, it was. Was
it not rumoured that he? I know it was just a rumour that he wasn't singing his songs. It was somebody else. One of these in the early days.
Yeah. I'll tell you right now, it must have been a rumour because he was
a great singer.
Oh, he was outrageous. He was magnificent.
Good part. The whole tour. Was he on tours?
Well, he said that he loved Glasgow and it introduced him to Jaeger bombs. Right. So he had a Jaeger had a Jaeger bomb and then did body popping on the front of the stage, and I thought he'd fit into that 1988-89 team, wouldn't he?
Absolutely. I get 40 minutes of Van Morrison and that's it, I'm fed up. I had to drag him back on again. Come back.
Good stuff. Thanks for that, Kevin. But of course, thanks to so many people passing on their messages. Nice to see Joe. And Kevin says 1989 Joe Miller final. It's not bad when you've got a final named after you, Joe, is it? It was the first cup final I was allowed to go to. So there you are. And Jock Cusick says Joe Miller did well at Aberdeen. Total disaster for Celtic. Should have gone should have gone elsewhere other than Glasgow. Jock, I think you're a bit harsh, to be honest with you. I think you did all right at Celtic. Anyway,
scoring a winning cup final's enough for me.
Yeah, well, absolutely, Ruffy. Anyway, thanks for so many of the messages and the video from Alan, from Stephen Hammell getting the job at Motherwell. We wish him well. It'll be interesting to see, as Joe mentioned there, can he get a little bit of class, a little bit of skill in the team and experience, as well as bringing through some of the younger players. Just out of curiosity, not too far away, Ruffy, tonight, it's difficult for us to give any predictions because by the time some people watch the show, whether they get it live is great, but if they don't and they watch it later on, they'll already know what's happened between AZ Alkmaar and Dundee United. But just to set the scene on it, here's a look back at some of the history that Dundee United are trying to emulate over the course of this game against Alkmaar, and fingers crossed more European games on the way.
Dundee United added to their long list of memorable European nights with a shock first leg victory over Dutch giants AZ Alkmaar at Tynecastle last week. Some older fans may remember famous wins over Barcelona, Juventus and Roma, but the Tangerines have failed to progress from a European tie since 1977. Ahead of their biggest European tie in over a decade, we take a look back at Dundee United's European record in the 21st century. The Terrors were dumped out of the UEFA Cup at the second qualifying round in August 2005 by Finnish minnows Milakovskin Palo 47. United were held to a goalless draw in Finland before losing out on away goals due to a 2-2 draw in the second leg. In 2010, Dundee United only had to progress through one qualifying tie to reach the group stages of the UEFA Europa League. But Peter Houston's side had to contest AEK Athens for the group stage spot. A 1-0 defeat at Tannadice in the first leg meant that the tie was still in the balance, but a 1-1 draw in Greece was not enough to see the Tangerines progress. Prior to last week's 1-0 victory over AZ Alkmaar, Dundee United's only previous European win since the year 2000 came in the second leg of a UEFA Europa League second qualifying round tie against Slash Wrocław in 2011. However, the 3-2 win would count for nothing as the Polish side advanced on away goals as a result of their 1-0 win in the first leg. In 2012, the Terrors were drawn against Russian powerhouses Dynamo Moscow in the third qualifying round of the UEFA Europa League. The Russians came from behind twice to snatch a draw at Tynecastle in the first leg, but a heavy 5-0 defeat in the away leg crushed United's hopes of progressing to the play-off round. The club entered the second leg of their UEFA Europa Conference League tie with the lead, a position they have not held since they thrashed Andorran side Principat 8-0 25 years ago. Now, can the Terrors buck the trend this week and progress from a European tie for the first time since the turn of the century?
Yeah, fingers crossed with that one, with Dundee United. I was up there, the atmosphere was fantastic. I thoroughly enjoyed it, Joe. And we all remember great Dundee United sides, but you just hope that they've got enough. I have my worries about this one, but I hope they've got enough to just scrape through.
I think he's got to have a game plan. You know, he's got his nose in front. And I think his game plan's got to be spot on. And if he's going over there to defend the lead that he has, then you know he's got every chance. I think that you've got to do that sometimes. But you know, if they're going to go gun ho and try and get a result there, I think AZ Alkmaar will maybe walk over the top of them because they look sharp. They look sharp on the break, and they could have scored a couple of goals at Tynecastle.
Yeah.
But I think if he goes there to try and maybe with a game plan to try and defend the league, I think he's got a chance there.
Yeah, fingers crossed. I think that's got to be the option on it. Although, Ruffy, I thought they had some really good technical players that could, that obviously did cause United problems on the night. I think when you look at the overall game, they had a couple of chances where they could have scored. Pavlidis up front.
Yeah, I just don't think one's enough. You know, I know Dundee United's last two games, goal against Kilmarnock and goal against Livingston. I mean, they are conceding at least one goal. And I always think when you're playing the away leg, the advantage is with the home team, because if they do get one goal, it's another 30 minutes at home. You know, the home team get, because I think the advantage is still with the home side. So I hope I'm wrong. You know, I hope they've certainly got quality on their side, and a wee rub of the green, they might get away with it.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, we always like to try and bring you any kind of up-to-date news that comes out, and this is coming off the back of a couple of unsavoury incidents. Most notably, I witnessed it in the Edinburgh derby between Hibs and Hearts fans coming onto the pitch, as well as a lighter being thrown at Alex Cochrane, which hit him on the head. Could have done a lot more damage, to be perfectly honest with you. And I think there's a growing concern over fans invading the pitch, the behaviour of them. In some cases, some of the songs from the stand as well, we've been talking about over the last couple of years, and you certainly don't want to be discussing that in any great detail over a longer period, because it suggests that we really need to address fan behaviour. And Aberdeen are the latest to jump on this. They've released a statement in the last few minutes saying the club wants to make fans aware of the challenges faced at the St Mirren fixture last weekend and the impact this has had in Aberdeen. 14 pyros were discharged at the game. Some of these damaged the pitch and burnt surrounding AstroTurf, which will be costly to repair. More than 40 seats and frames were vandalised in the Red Shed at a cost of at least £1,000 to the club. In addition to this, an object thrown at one of the away supporters' buses caused significant damage and is being treated as a criminal act. More information on that can be found in a police statement. For the past 10 years, St Mirren games have not required a police presence. As a result of these issues, that is now under review, and it could change. With that comes yet further unnecessary costs for the club. We strongly advise that no balaclavas are worn whilst approaching or within the stadium. This will only attract attention. It unnerves other fans, and it's not an image we want to encourage. A small disruptive group is tarnishing the reputation of the club, impacting the matchday experience for others, and costing us a lot of money that could be better spent elsewhere. We would urge our supporters who don't cause these issues to help us deal with this and report any unacceptable behaviour before it escalates and our Red Shed licence is taken away by the authorities. So Aberdeen are not the only club to obviously voice their concerns about it, but it's a growing concern, not only here but down south as well, Ruffy.
Yeah, and you have to be seen to be doing something about it. You know, obviously if you're not, then the authorities will think you're just not bothering about it. And the fines, the supporters have to realise that these fines do hurt the club itself, because they will get fined. There's no doubt about that. And obviously you don't want to see anybody getting hurt at a game. you know, particularly one of your own supporters. I think it happened at a game I was at. They tried to light one of these things, it never went off properly, and all it does was drop down 3 rows and hit a wee boy in the back of the head. So these are the things, but I don't understand how they're getting into the ground with them. You know, the security.
Well, it's easy enough to get into the grounds now. You could walk in with a season ticket in some areas at Celtic Park now, and you just flash a season ticket across the card reader. Not everybody's getting checked.
No, they're not getting searched.
You could do it at Ibrox when you've got your season ticket, you scan to get in. And there's a number of clubs where there's not that real tight security, Joe.
There's just too many people attending games, especially with the bigger clubs. You can't be going searching them. There's not enough time. These fans just want to get the fans in, and there's not enough time for them all to be stopping and searching them.
Yeah, and that's an interesting point. There's not a lot of police because, quite simply, I don't think clubs can afford to pay for a police presence in great numbers.
Well, I think they can be identified as well. They've got camera systems where the cameras. The police have got access to the cameras to the crowd, so if they point them out and look through their cameras, the recordings, they could probably whether they give them a yearly ban or a lifetime ban, if depending on what they do. But I think somebody there's all right giving them that warning, but I think there's maybe 2 or 3 strikes and then you've got to step in and let the police step in.
Yeah, I liked Anne Budge's approach to it. There were some fans just singing songs that weren't becoming of being a Hearts fan. She just basically zoned in on them and then quickly removed them from the end, barred from the club. And I think Aberdeen will have to look at it. I mean, I just don't understand people wanting to take the flares in there, causes serious damage as well. Some people have these they're like small little bombs that go off, make a huge noise as well. I think if you can highlight them, as Joe says, get them out. People wearing balaclavas just need to have a long hard look at themselves.
I'll certainly be searching him if he was coming in.
Well, I was just about to say to you, Joe. I mean, honestly, even when I was younger, Ruffy, and balaclavas would probably have been a necessary thing to wear. You didn't wear a balaclava in Lanarkshire because you were getting your head kicked in.
Yeah, exactly.
It's as simple as that.
Which is, you don't go with a balaclava.
But nevertheless, I mean, at the end of the day, I hope Aberdeen take a firm stance on this, because it's going to cost the club. Another thing as well, Ruffy, which just shows you how stupid people can become when they go and kick the seats and smash them, and then they don't realise that it's your club that suffers. You get the bill, and and the club suffers from it, and then they moan about why they can't sign players.
Yeah, it hurts even more if it's your own supporters that are damaging your seats. If it's an away support that's damaging the seats, you just send them the bill and they've got to pay for it. But if it's your own fans, you've certainly got to do for it. But most of the damage is caused can be identified in certain areas. We spoke about it last week. Every club has an area when you know if there's going to be anything, it's in that corner.
Yeah, I think you could target a specific area.
The police boxes are there, and the clubs have went to a lot of expense putting these systems in where they can zone in and who's sitting there. So they shouldn't get away with it. They should be able to pinpoint them and whether they've got a season book or whatever, take it off them, and that's it.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, we'll switch our attention to what we hope next week will be a successful one for Rangers at home against PSV. And as ever with these games, when they come up, Ruffy, it's like history repeats itself, where you get the story coming out that the Dutch FA this time is the main driving force of this story, have managed to switch the game that PSV have to help them prepare for the 2 legs against Rangers, so they won't have a game in between their first leg, then a game, and then the return leg. They've switched that game and moved it towards the end of the month, which allows PSV 8 days to basically prepare for the return leg. They'll know what they have to do and they can work on that, and they'll avoid maybe crucial injuries. And by the same token, the SPFL have looked at this situation, and Rangers will play Hibs away from home 3 days, 3 days before the game's going to play. Now, I don't know about you, but surely we should be helping our clubs to try and progress in Europe. It would change the whole landscape of Scottish football.
Yeah, I think they have to understand as well that it's not only the club that they're helping, but they're helping the whole of Scottish football.
Other clubs benefit.
If Rangers and Celtic get into the group stages, every club in Scotland benefits from a handout of the money that's paid out, and there's a lot of money getting paid out for UEFA. How
in the top flight,
no, it comes down to the Championship.
Do you get the Championship?
Yeah, lots of money.
Yeah,
I'm talking about lots and lots. Yeah, it's scaled down dramatically all the way. So you're not just helping Rangers or Celtic if it was Celtic.
Yeah.
And what difference does it make just rearranging a game? You know, it's just
Well, the interesting aspect of this is, I mean, are we playing a huge amount of football beyond the schedule that the Dutch, are we playing more than the Dutch? I don't think so, Joe.
Well, this is the time to do it, and I think it's because it's early on in the season. You know, the cup competitions aren't really in full flight. You've got the League Cup, and then playing up to the final in December. You know, that kind of game where you've got a league and then a League Cup competition. Shift it, but because it's so early on in the season, and you know, the coefficient or whatever, you know, the money that could be generated into Scottish football, then I think early on in the season, I think you could look at it.
You know, they carry on where even the clubs within the Premier League, they don't help each other.
No.
I bet you if it was thrown out to the clubs, and you went to a vote, I think a majority would say, well, play a reserve team, Rangers. Or Celtic, play a reserve team.
There's no sympathy.
That wins. I bet you that's the way they would go down.
You don't need
they would just think about themselves and say, oh, we're missing income in this game.
Yeah.
You know, with you moving it. So let's think about us before we start. That's the stupid thing that would probably happen.
You don't have to look at me and convince me, Ruffy, because I know that all of you lot with your boards and everything, you're all in it for your own self-interest and backstabbing each other. And don't worry, Joe, that's not a glib throwaway statement. That's
He's
just
not invited me up yet.
That's just look at the evidence. Oh, Joe. Calm yourself, honestly.
My brother-in-law's a big Thistle fan.
Yeah, is that right?
Yes,
do you speak
huge.
to him?
Aye, he goes to all the games. To all the games.
It's good stuff, by the way. You go into the boardroom, obviously, then Ruffy leaves you and you stand there and hope somebody comes up to talk to you. If you're a member of the press, he's invited up there, you sit there and you go, please somebody come up and speak to me, because you know you feel like a leper in there. But you'd be fine, Josie.
I know a few people. I know a few. Jerry's there, isn't he? Jerry Britton's there.
Absolutely.
A few guys there.
I'll get you invited. You want to come next Friday night? We've got a Friday night game.
I might do that, yeah. I'll take you up on that.
Well, there you are, honestly. Do you know who's
playing?
Broth, I think it is, in a Friday night game.
Yeah, well, that's a good game, Joe.
Right, okay.
Well, that's not a bad invite. You've done not bad. You remind Joe, the footballing equivalent of Jarvis Cocker, Ligger, just goes anywhere for a free meal and a night out. And then after that, maybe after the game, head up to the Cotton Club.
Just a game.
Mind you,
Joe doesn't know the Cotton Club shot.
This will cost me because he taps a lift off me every event. Well, you couldn't run me home, could you?
It's a Stonewall certainty, Joe. But anyway, I think the main point here is, just out of curiosity, Joe, what did you make of Rangers getting past Union? Because I didn't think they were great shakes, but I thought Rangers would win 3-0.
I didn't think Rangers got their act together in the first game at all. You know, I think they got what they deserved, even though, you know, they're going to Ibrox. I knew that they'd be up for it. You know, they showed that. I think Rangers, with the possession that they had and the intent they had, you know, the intensity they had, I don't think, you know, they couldn't live with it. I think they deserved the result. And I think there was a lot of relief as well. But it was a well-deserved result, and it was a good performance.
Yeah, absolutely. They've got 2 or 3 players that I like looking at. Lawrence is good. Tillman's good. I still think there's more to come from Matondo as well. But you know, you look at some of the periphery. I think Rangers, you know, as we get closer to the end of the month, Ruffy, depending on this result against PSV, I think it will determine the calibre of player they try to bring in, as well as shifting. You know, there's talk of Sakala could be on his way out. Roof, it's never been far away from being the subject of transfer speculation. So I think Giovanni Van Bronckhorst might say to himself, if we get past PSV, you're in the kitty for the 30-40 million, and let's get players out that are just not going to feature.
Yeah, I mean, that's the way ahead. That's what they will do. Yeah, but once you get into group stages, sometimes the players you want out the door don't want to go out the door because they're now in group. They're now part of a team in the Champions League group stages, so they might want to say, well, that's adding to my CV, but not all players, if they're not playing, want to move. Some of them are quite happy just to sit there.
Yeah, absolutely. Unless, of course, you're a Barcelona player, and then obviously the club tries to say that your contract's not legal, then asks you to take 2 major reductions in your wages so that they can buy Lewandowski. I am gobsmacked by that club at the moment, Joe.
You know, living beyond your means is just... It's an insult to that, but you know, how can you pay a player £500,000 a week? It's just
no, but do you know what's even funnier, Joe? It's not the boys' fault, by the way. They offered him the money. Right, it's £500,000 to Frankie de Jong. He was offered it, you know, to go to Barcelona. So if you were offered it, fantastic. Here we are, sign the contract. My problem is, I'd love to have been a fly in the wall when Juan Laporta, you know, brings in Piqué or Busquets. Considering what they've done for that club, and said, by the way, is there any chance you could take another 50% reduction because we want to sign Lewandowski and a few others, and we want you to drop. Frankie de Jong is owed 17 million in wages. Now,
is he going to get that?
Well, that's the nonsense of it, isn't it?
I'm sure, you know, somebody's going to step in here. Even the government's got to step in, because above, you know, albeit Barcelona and Real Madrid are paying high wages, they've got the top stars going there, but the lower tier teams are struggling to pay wages to the players.
Absolutely.
It's been going on for years.
The clubs are owed millions by Barcelona. Some clubs are owed.
Yeah, you know? Because you know, they took some players from those clubs and never paid the transfers.
Terrible. Somebody needs to step in, but then again, if UEFA have any sporting integrity whatsoever, they should be able to actually make an announcement on why that hasn't happened. We did mention there about Rangers. I think a lot of Rangers fans might have been looking last night and thinking, would they put up a better fight against Real Madrid, or is it just Real Madrid? It's just too good. They defeated Eintracht Frankfurt in the Super Cup.
Oh, I'm sure Rangers supporters would have loved to have been there just for the night to say, I was there when we saw Real Madrid, or we beat Real Madrid and we won another trophy. Yeah, it's quite ironic the way that the Eintracht Rangers game panned out. That one save at the end of the game, you know, just took it away for Rangers, and I thought they were playing well at that particular time. But no, it's one, you have to move on. There's nothing you can do about it. You can look at it and see the result and just hope or wish that you had been there.
It's a bonus game anyway, isn't it? It's just it's a glamour game at the end, and
yeah, absolutely,
winning a European trophy.
Well, I'll tell you what is good. I'll tell you what is good about it is Benzema. I mean, he's some player. I mean, he just keeps scoring, doesn't he, Joe? And you wonder what he would have achieved if he had been kingpin and there wasn't a Cristiano Ronaldo. I mean, his goals, that was his 324th for the club. And I think now he's the second all time. He's surpassed Raul, and he was, you know, a cracking player for them. But he's now, you know, one ahead of Raul, but he's still behind Ronaldo by some 126 goals, and I can't see him beating him.
How old is he?
34.
Oh, no, I can't see him doing that.
Can't see him doing 126 goals, Joe, unless he plays well into his 40s. Is that fair?
Or into his 50s.
But he's been some player for them. I can remember seeing him as a young player against Rangers when he was playing for Leon, and I was looking at him thinking, this guy is outrageous.
He's strong, powerful, but he knows what the goals is.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm just looking here at the next part, Ruffy, which I want to get your thoughts on, is of course the weekend's fixtures, because we've got you know, some really tasty games to look forward to. Obviously, Ruffy, we're going to do a kind of a shorter show tomorrow as a preview, because all that football, all that marathon running, all that tennis, Ruffy, and finally I need to get an operation. Quite a lot of people have said to me when they met me last night, you're really getting the snip. So thanks for that. Well done, Ruffy. I'm getting the leg fixed so I can play tennis.
Yeah, you were struggling the other night. I could see you in a wee bit of pain.
Yeah.
You know, and I just put that down to your technical ability. But no. You were struggling, so you've got to get it done, because you're still active like me. You want to do everything, and you want to be fit and healthy. So yeah, let's just hope the operation goes well. It'll be me in here on Monday.
Yeah, Joseph. Josie, as you know yourself, son, you know, when you're dragging your leg around and you need a hip operation, and Bonzo's still at the net, letting me do doggies at the back end of the tennis court. I mean, he's got no sympathy whatsoever.
No, he's making you work, is he?
Absolutely, I felt like Ian Andrews. Anyway, apart from anything else, I'm really looking forward to the weekend's football, because some tasty games on as well. Aberdeen at Motherwell, Livingston against Hibs, Rangers St Johnstone, St Mirren Ross County, Killie against Celtic, and Hearts against Dundee United. So some really good games there. Joe, obviously Aberdeen against Motherwell is one of those ones where you'd expect Aberdeen to be.
You'd expect Aberdeen to win there, but you know, maybe a bit of confidence for Stevie getting the job.
You always get a kick sometimes, don't you?
You get a wee boost, but I think that's got a draw written all of it.
Yeah, are you going for a draw on that?
I'd go for a draw.
Callum Roberts is one of the 10 signings that Jim Goodwin made, and it looks as if he's going to be out for a significant period. He's picked up an injury. Now, I don't know about you, but there is nothing worse than you've got your team together, you've made all these signings, and suddenly one player just derails you. One player
you were looking to rely on to get you goals, and you know, a key player, but these things happen, don't they?
Yeah, absolutely. Did you have any major injuries when you were playing?
Oh, I was forever getting injured. You know, I had quite a few broken bones, and in fact, it wasn't actually an injury. The one that kept me out for a while was I had a bottle opening incident right before a European tie. We were playing Sion, and I was about 17 or 18, and I went along to this old folks' home to open the old gallon bottles of whiskey, but it's full of coins. That exploded in my hand and opened up my hand, and I was out for about 11 weeks. But
is that right?
And it was just because the nerves and the tendons had to be sewed together, and
which is amazing.
But that was, you know, it kept me out of it, and I couldn't actually. I was still running about in training and things like that, but you know, I couldn't take any knocks or anything like that, or felt if I fell or anything.
Yeah, because an amazing story, because I knew you when you were younger, and usually the bottle was opened already for you, because you never really put your hand never put your hand in your pocket to buy one in the first place. so that's an amazing story, Robbie, isn't it? So Aberdeen Mully's got a draw.
No, I think Aberdeen are going to look at this one. I'm going to go Aberdeen. I know the new manager coming in, a late goal, Motherwell against last week, St Johnstone. Nah, Aberdeen for me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, okay then. Aberdeen for you. Livingston against Hibs. Now, the reason this one's got a tasty one, because Livingston are always a nightmare for anybody to play against, and Hibs have got Martin Boyle. I think even, you know, David Martindale, the Livingston boss, is excited and delighted to see Martin Boyle back in Scottish football.
It's nice to see him back in the Scottish Premier League, if I'm honest. He's an exciting player, he's a big player. And it'll give them a wee lift, but I'll try to focus more on we're at home, so we try to focus more on our game plan opposed to the opponents, albeit we'll look at that tactical detail. If Martin Boyle starts the game, Martin Boyle doesn't start the game, but that's not any different to how we'd approach the game if Melkerson starts the game or Melkerson's on the bench. It's just very, very similar.
I think when you've got a player like Boyle, it might take him a few games to get up to speed, although you wouldn't think so when he was playing against Hearts, but it'll change the dynamics of Hibs when you're coming up against them, how to try and neutralise them.
Yeah, I mean, he's had a wee spell away for the club, and he's back where it probably feels he belongs now, and the Hibs supporters, you know, have rallied round for what he did last week, and no, I think he'll be full of confidence going into that game and try to build on what he did last week, so I would go for a Hibs win.
Yeah, I can't separate them, Ruffy. I think it's going to be 1-1.
Yeah, I first of all couldn't separate them, then I decided to go for Hibs 2-1.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, funny that. And also, Gregor says Joe Miller was a great servant to Aberdeen on 2 occasions and did all right for Celtic too. So Gregor, I think, is an Aberdeen fan. And what was the most enjoyable time for you, Joe? Was it first time or second time at Aberdeen?
Probably the first time, you know, under Sir Alex. You know, I was learning the game then, but it was a good group of players. And roughly, I'll tell you, when you're with a team that's winning leagues and cups and you're part of that, it's fantastic for your upbringing. You're learning of the game, and you know, being around the experienced players, you're learning all the time. But my move to Celtic, but it's a success that you're chasing as well, because a lot of players can play Scottish football and not achieve anything in the game. But I count myself lucky and fortunate. I started off with Aberdeen, who reached cup finals, went to Celtic, reached cup finals, won leagues. It was a successful period. But even when I went back to Aberdeen, I went back and old teammates were taking on. Willie brought me back, and then Roy took over and we won the League Cup with Roy.
Yeah.
So still that success was there, and I think that's where I kind of gauge, being around cup finals and finishing first or second in the league.
Yeah. I'm trying to fathom out which team I was playing with that Joe's talking about. They've won all these cups.
Yeah. Well, you joined that centenary team, so they knew what it was like to win. Can I just ask you this though? You mentioned there about first and second periods with that, Aberdeen. Mm-hmm. I have to say, only due to the fact that I know quite a lot of them, that dressing room in no way could have even matched that team that you played with at Celtic, who I think 9 of them must have been the most extrovert players I've ever met. Maybe 2 not. Ian Andrews, because he had to go and seek psychological help for being
Alan McNeill was there when I joined, and it wasn't to the following season. That was 87 I joined.
Yes.
That was the centenary year. That was in November. And you walked into a dressing room, and the saying that used to go with Paul McStay, there was a buzz about the place. It was just on fire. The dressing room was electric, and the togetherness of the team was brilliant. And it's not the groups of players that are in clubs just now where there are 30 and 40 players. How can you get all these players into the one dressing room? It's just ridiculous. But we had like 20 players in the dressing room, and that's where we all bonded. And we did everything together. We went out together, we were at each other's houses, we trained together in hotels, and that travelling together as well. It was a phenomenal group of players.
Yeah.
And we believed that we were going to. Once I went there, I bought into it that, even though I went from Aberdeen, I've weakened Aberdeen and strengthened Celtic.
Yes.
And that's the way I seen it, and that's how I fitted in so well, and it was a great group of players to accept us that way.
You would have loved to have spent longer. Is that fair?
I could have done. When Ronnie Glavin went there and I was part of the deal, the 2 of us was to go at once.
We went through a terrible thing. I think it was leading up to the pre-season, wasn't it? We went through an unbelievable amount of injuries with the goalkeepers.
Yeah.
And we had Andy Murdoch out, and we had Pat was out, and Alan McKnight had left. He'd went to West Ham, and this is where Ian Andrews came in, and Ruffy was coming in as well. So I think it was a turnover. Even one pre-season game, we got a guy out of the crowd to play in goals for us because we had.
And Hamish
McAlpine came over.
He went in a pre-season tour.
So there was about a turnover, about 8 goalkeepers.
Absolutely, and absolutely. Well, they did, Ruffy. I'd love to see you. I'd love to know who the scout was for Ian Andrews, but that's another story. So Livingston, Rangers St Johnstone. I've got Rangers to win comfortably, because I think slowly but surely now, as these players start to gel with each other, you'll start to see a greater fluency. There's the Joe Aribo and the Calvin Bassey thing is gone now. This is about players that are exciting Rangers fans now, and I think they'll be comfortable winners 3-0.
Yeah, well, now Rangers in the next round. Obviously he does tamper with the team a wee bit. The guys who never played in that game in midweek will be wanting to go out and show what they can do. So I still think Rangers will win that quite easy.
Yeah, I think Rangers will win it. Even with having Kent and Morelos back in the setup as well, will give everybody a boost.
Yeah, I like the look of Ross County, Joe. I think Malky's doing a really good job there. I watched them. I think they play good football, and I think St Mirren are in for a torrid time at the weekend. Yeah,
I think Malky's always, they've done well against Celtic all the time. It doesn't matter who they play, they've always done well. But I think he's changed the kind of mentality up there.
Yeah.
And he's tried to, get a winning side, and he's not sitting there accepting second best. He's going there to upset teams and get a result. And I like his attitude that he's doing that. He's not going there just to sit in and maybe we can get a draw or keep it a reasonable defeat. He's actually having a go.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, I've got County to win. Ruffy?
No, I agree with you. I've said they're going to be top 6. I mean 6th. I can't see them going any higher than that. But if they're going to be the team that you keep telling me, they've got to win this game at the weekend.
Yeah. Well, there's a run of 3 or 4 games that Malky highlighted last week that he thinks are winnable games. We'll see in the next 4 games how confident Ross County are at getting the 3 points out of them. 12 points up for grabs. Let's wait for the 4 games to finish and see how many points they've got. Killie against Celtic. Derek McInnes, I think, is a shrewd cookie. And I can envisage this being a long, hard 90 minutes for Celtic against Kilmarnock. I think Ruffy thinks Killie are going to get relegated. I don't see it.
I don't know. I've not seen enough of them so far. I mean, although they've came up, they could go right back down again.
Yeah.
I don't know what the investment's been like either. I think he's going along with the same squad as he had, more or less. So, you know, Celtic will dominate the game as they do every game.
Who's impressed you
regarding Celtic? I like O'Reilly. I like the way he plays.
Yeah.
I think he's
not bad for 1.2 million.
I think he's brilliant. I think he's a player. He's similar to Thomas Rogic, where he's got that kind of composure. He doesn't panic, and there's players round about him to try and nip the ball off him, but he doesn't seem to be panicking, and he always finds a Celtic jersey. I think he's an exceptional player, and he can see a pass. You know, I think that's the difference.
Yeah.
He had something special, but you know, whether they work out with it, I would like to see them even trying to go 2 up with Giakoumakis and Kyogo. I'd like to see that experimented.
Yeah.
But I've not seen that yet. But you know, the signs aren't too bad, and the new fella at the back. They've been. You know, I think coming up for corner kicks, Celtic's been needing somebody strong and powerful, because I remember probably the last one that I played would be Paul Elliott would come up and you know, and he would be powerful in the air and could head a goal in. Mick McCarthy was one as well. So, you know, it's good to see that a big fella could come up and score goals for corner kicks.
Yeah, I've got 2-1. Tight day, 2-1. Celtic.
I think it'll be 3 or 4.
I went 2-0.
Okay, Ruffy. And the last one is Hearts Dundee United, just before we go.
Yeah, I went for Hearts. I think, alright, they lost a late goal last week, but a home crowd, Dundee with that midweek game, Hearts home win.
Yeah, I think Hearts.
Yep.
Yeah, we're going for Hearts. Okay. Joe, brilliant having you on the show, as ever. We always like to pick your brains on players gone by, games that you played in, the managers you worked under. Absolute joy to listen to you. And of course, we could dedicate an entire show with Joe and Ruffy to what happened off the park as well. But unfortunately, that show would have to go out at 3 o'clock in the morning beyond the watershed. And then we'd have to legally look at the show afterwards to see what we had to take out. Brilliant stuff. Thank you to Joe, thank you to Ruffy. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button on the football show on PLZ Soccer's YouTube channel if you can. Thank you to so many of you who have done that. If you're listening on the podcast, brilliant. Our figures in the podcast have been absolutely superb. Thank you to everyone who's joining in on the podcast as well and enjoying the chat. Like Joe, we've got lots of special guests lined up over the forthcoming months that I think you will enjoy their chat. And over and above that, tomorrow we'll have a shorter show. I'm sure you'll forgive me for that one. And then we'll be back full tilt, hopefully, on Monday, looking back over the weekend's fixtures. But if you want updates on it all, download the app and keep your eye on our YouTube and our social media channels, because our reporters will be out at the games as well. From Joe, Ruffy and myself, Peter Martin, have a great weekend.